All right, let's dive into one of the most complex parables from Der Wille Part 2, The Carnival of Skulls. This is a story that really forces its hero, and you, to make a choice between the perfect, quiet peace of stillness and the beautiful, messy chaos of just being alive.
So this idea here, it's pretty chilling, right? It comes from the story's antagonist, and it perfectly sets up the central conflict. It gets you thinking, is the whole point of existence just to reach a perfect, final, motionless state? Or is there something more to it?
Okay, so to really get our heads around this, we're going to follow its dialectical structure. First up, we'll look at the core problem, the hero's internal struggle, and the stagnant city he's in. Then we'll get into the opposing force, this creepy mist that literally eats your reason for living. And finally, we'll see how it all explodes into a resolution that forges a whole new reality.
At its heart, this entire story hinges on a massive change happening inside our hero, Der Wille. He's not just changing his mind, he is fundamentally shifting from one way of being to another, and it redefines everything about him.
So before all this, Der Wille was all about what's called Fichtean stabilization. Imagine you're trying to hold a crumbling building together with nothing but your own two hands. That was him. His whole deal was using his sheer will to impose order and stop the world from falling into chaos. But now, something is changing. He's evolving, moving towards this completely different idea, a Dionysian justification. This is all about amor fati, which basically means the love of fate. So instead of fighting chaos, he's learning to embrace the whole wild ride of existence, the good, the bad, all of it.
And yeah, this really nails the two sides of the coin, doesn't it? On one hand, you've got that Fichtean grip, this rigid, controlling force trying to lock everything down. But on the other, there's Dionysian fluidity. It's wild, it's messy, it's alive. And that's the big question for him. Do you try to control reality, or do you just jump in and become part of the dance?
Okay, so that's the battle going on inside his head. Now let's see how that plays out in the world itself. We're heading to Naples, and let me tell you, this place is a total contradiction. It's unsettling.
So you look at Naples, and at first glance, it's just this wild, nonstop party. You've got this frantic carnival, people in skull masks. It's like they're thumbing their nose at the stiff, bureaucratic order that Der Wille used to champion. But it's all a show. Underneath all that manic energy, something is deeply wrong. The city's soul is basically frozen solid.
And here's the central symbol of that problem. The city's spiritual heart is represented by the famous miracle of Saint Januarius. See, this saint's blood is supposed to miraculously turn to liquid, a sign of life and vitality. But here, nope. It's just a dry black clot. It's the perfect image for a world that has just stopped living.
And that little clot of blood? It's the physical anchor for that whole creepy philosophy we started with, the one they call the glass coffin. It's this idea that, maybe the struggle of life isn't worth it. Maybe the real prize is the peace you get when everything is finally finished, motionless, and dead.
So if stagnation is the problem, what's pushing against it? Well, this is where things get really weird. The antagonist here isn't some big monster you can punch. It's way more subtle, and honestly, way scarier. It's an existential threat called the Null Protocol.
This Null Protocol shows up as a thick, gray mist that just sort of rolls in from the forest. It's called Atman Null, and wherever this mist goes, it creates what the story calls the silence of the Clot. It's just a field of complete and utter nothingness. But here's the really terrifying part. It's not what the mist is, it's what it does, what it consumes. And to get that, you got to understand this ancient Greek idea, telos. Telos is your purpose, your goal, your reason for being.
So ask yourself this. What if the enemy doesn't want to kill you, but just wants to take away your reason for getting up in the morning? That's what the mist does. It doesn't eat your body, it eats your telos. The carnival dancers get touched by it and they just stop. They just stand there, overcome with total apathy. They would rather just not be than put in the effort to live.
So how in the world do you fight something like that? The answer, the resolution to this whole conflict, isn't in the city. It's deep inside Mount Vesuvius, which is kind of the hidden fiery truth of this whole story. To take on this all-consuming apathy, you need a new kind of team. First, Der Wille transforms. He becomes the Red Architect, fully embracing that chaotic, fluid way of being. He's joined by Pan, who acts as a bridge between his mind and the raw power of the earth. And to top it off, you have Donner, who brings the thunder, literally, the catalyst for what's about to happen.
And this all leads to the big finale, an act of what's called active nihilism. Now, that sounds pretty bleak, but it's not about giving up. It's about tearing down something that's broken and stagnant so you can build something vibrant and new in its place.
It all kicks off with D'Urville, now the Red Architect. He takes his dialectic scythe and just carves a line in the volcanic ash. That's the signal. It's time to go.
And that is Donner's cue. He slams Mjolnir right into the heart of Vesuvius, timed perfectly with the city's own heartbeat. It's like a cosmic defibrillator, jump-starting the fire within.
And what happens next is just incredible. Vesuvius doesn't erupt with lava. This is a metaphysical explosion. It unleashes this shockwave of violet gamma radiation, which is the pure, raw energy of the will to power. And that spiritual heat finally melts the stagnant blood clot in the city and just burns that mist of apathy away to nothing.
So picture this. In the middle of all this eruption of pure will, D'Urville is standing there, and he has to make his final, defining choice.
He looks at that promise of the glass coffin, that idea of a peaceful nothingness, and he completely and utterly rejects it. Instead, he just screams, "Da capo," which means once more. He is choosing life with all its struggle and all its joy, and he's screaming for it to happen over and over again.
So, what's the ultimate point here? It's that a life with meaning has to have flow. It can't be static. It needs the struggle. It needs the suffering to be truly alive. The blood has to flow, you know? It can't just clot up and find a quiet, peaceful end.
And that's really the question this whole parable leaves hanging in the air. It forces you to ask yourself what truly defines a life well lived. Is it about reaching that perfect, quiet finish line? Or is it about embracing the messy, chaotic, beautiful, and sometimes painful journey itself?